Please, Daddy, I can walk by myself, Noah cried, as his father gripped his arm tighter. No, Noah, you'll fall again, Robert Hayes snapped, his voice sharp with embarrassment as other shoppers stared at them in the crowded supermarket aisle. The 7-year-old boy with Down syndrome tried to pull away, but his father's grip only tightened. That's when it happened. Noah stumbled backward, his knee hitting the hard floor with a loud crack. Ow, Daddy, it hurts! Tears streamed down Noah's face as he clutched his bleeding knee. Robert stood frozen, not knowing what to do. He had always avoided taking Noah out in public, too ashamed of his son's condition. Now he regretted this rare trip to the store. Suddenly, a small voice broke through Noah's cries. Hey, it's okay. Let me help. A 10-year-old black girl with torn clothes and dirty sneakers knelt beside Noah. Her name was Kira Washington, and she had been quietly collecting empty cans from the trash when she heard the commotion. What are you doing? Get away from my son, Robert shouted. But Kira ignored him. She gently placed her small hands on Noah's injured knee and began massaging around the wound with surprising skill. Shh, it's going to feel better soon, she whispered softly. Within seconds, Noah stopped crying. His breathing became calm, and a small smile appeared on his face. Robert Hayes, one of the richest men in the city, stood speechless. How could this homeless child do what he couldn't? If you're someone who appreciates emotional stories, we'd love for you to like and subscribe. There's more to come that might move you too. Robert Hayes stared down at the small girl with wide eyes. Her dark skin was dirty, and her clothes looked like they hadn't been washed in weeks. The smell of the streets clung to her like a second skin. But her hands moved with such gentle care around his son's knee that it made him freeze in place. How do you know how to do that? Robert asked, his voice much quieter now. His expensive suit felt suddenly uncomfortable as he knelt down to get a better look at what she was doing. Kira looked up at him with big brown eyes that seemed too old for her 10-year-old face. My mama taught me before she died. She had bad legs too, just like your boy. The doctor said her bones were weak and she couldn't walk right. I used to rub her legs every night before bed. Noah had completely stopped crying. He was looking at Kira with wonder, like she was some kind of magic person. His small face was still wet with tears, but now he seemed completely calm. It doesn't hurt anymore, he whispered, touching his knee carefully. See? I told you. Kira smiled at him, showing teeth that needed dental care but a smile that was genuine and warm. Sometimes our bodies just need a little help to feel better. That's what Mama always said. Robert felt his heart beating fast. This homeless child had done something in 30 seconds that doctors had never been able to do. Noah usually cried for hours when he got hurt, sometimes making himself sick from all the tears and screaming. The family doctor had prescribed expensive pain medicines that never seemed to work very well. What's your name? Noah asked Kira, his voice full of curiosity. He seemed completely unaware that other shoppers were staring at them, some with disgust, others with curiosity. I'm Kira Washington. What's yours? I'm Noah Hayes, and this is my daddy. He's really rich and has lots of companies, but he gets scared when I fall down because he doesn't know how to help me. Robert felt his cheeks burn red with embarrassment. Even his 7-year-old son could see how bad of a father he was. Noah, don't say things like that to strangers. But she's not a stranger, Daddy. She helped me when you couldn't. Strangers don't help people like that. They just walk away or pretend they don't see. Kira carefully helped Noah stand up, supporting his weight with her thin arms. His knee was still bleeding a little, but he wasn't limping anymore. She had somehow made the pain go away completely. You should clean this when you get home, she told Robert. Use warm water and put some ice on it for 10 minutes. Then put a bandage on it. The bleeding will stop soon. How do you know all of this? Robert asked, genuinely amazed. Are you studying to be a nurse or something? Kira laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. I don't go to school anymore. I learned all this taking care of Mama when she was sick. And now I take care of myself. How old are you? Robert asked, though he was afraid of the answer. 10, Kira answered, picking up her plastic bag full of empty cans. The bag was heavy, and Robert could see her small hands struggling with the weight. I need to go now. The store manager doesn't like me here. He calls the police sometimes when he sees me. Wait, Robert said quickly, standing up and brushing dirt off his expensive pants. Where are your parents, besides your mother, I mean? What about your father? Kira's eyes became sad, and she looked down at the floor. They both died in a car crash 2 years ago. Mama lasted in the hospital for 3 months, but then she died too. I don't have any family left. I live by myself now. Robert felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. This child was completely alone in the world, living on the streets, and she had just helped his son with more kindness than Robert had shown Noah in months. He thought about his own childhood, growing up in a mansion with servants and private teachers. The contrast made him feel ashamed. Where do you sleep at night? Noah asked innocently, his hand still holding onto Kira's arm like he didn't want her to leave. Different places. Sometimes the park if the weather is nice. Sometimes behind the big church on Main Street because they have a covered area. Sometimes in doorways of closed stores. It depends on if the police come or if it's raining. Robert looked around the supermarket. People were still staring at them, whispering to each other behind their hands. Some looked disgusted by Kira's appearance. Others seemed curious about what was happening. A few people had their phones out, probably taking pictures or videos. The thought made him uncomfortable. "Sir, is there a problem here?" A security guard walked up to them, looking directly at Kira with suspicion. He was a big man with a stern face, and his hand was resting on his radio. "No problem," Robert said quickly. "This young lady was helping my son after he fell and hurt himself." The guard didn't look convinced. His eyes stayed focused on Kira. "She's been digging in our trash cans again. We've told her multiple times that she can't do that here. It's against store policy, and it makes other customers uncomfortable." "I wasn't stealing anything," Kira said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I just take the empty cans that people throw away. I sell them to the recycling center for money." "How much money do you make from collecting cans?" Robert asked, genuinely curious. "On a really good day, maybe $3 or $4 if I work all day long. That's enough for a small meal at the fast food place. Usually it's less than that though, maybe $2 on most days." Robert felt sick to his stomach. His son ate meals that cost $50 or more. His family threw away more food in a week than this child ate in a month. And yet she had shown Noah more compassion in 5 minutes than Robert had shown him in years. "Daddy, can Kira come home with us?" Noah asked suddenly, his voice full of hope. "She could live in one of our extra bedrooms. We have like 6 bedrooms that nobody uses." "Noah, that's not how things work," Robert started to say, but then he stopped. Why wasn't that how things worked? He had more money than he could spend in 10 lifetimes. He had houses with empty rooms. What exactly was stopping him? "But she doesn't have a home, and she's all alone, and she knows how to make my legs feel better when they hurt. She's like a magic doctor, but nicer than our real doctors." Robert looked at his son's hopeful face, then at Kira, who was trying to hide behind her bag of cans. The security guard was still standing there, waiting for them to leave so he could probably ban Kira from the store forever. "How about this?" Robert said slowly, the words coming out before he had time to think about them. "Would you like to have lunch with us? There's a nice restaurant right across the street from here." Kira's eyes went wide with shock. "Really? You actually want to eat lunch with me? Even though I look like this?" "Yes, I do. And so does Noah. We would be honored to have lunch with you." The little girl looked down at her dirty clothes and worn-out shoes. "But I look terrible. People will stare at me and judge you for being with me. Rich people don't eat with homeless kids." "Let them stare," Robert said, surprised by his own words and the anger he felt toward people who would judge a child. "You helped my son when he needed it most. You showed him kindness when I couldn't. That makes you more important than anyone else in this entire building." Noah clapped his hands together with excitement. "Can we get pizza? I love pizza. And ice cream too." "We can get whatever you want," Robert told his son. Then he looked at Kira. "Both of you can get whatever you want to eat." As they walked toward the exit, Robert noticed how other shoppers moved away from Kira like she had some kind of disease. Some covered their noses like she smelled bad. Others pulled their children closer to them and whispered warnings. One woman actually made a disgusted face and shook her head. It made Robert angrier than he had ever been in his life. "Kira," he said as they reached the automatic doors, "how long has it been since you had a real meal? Not just bread or scraps, but an actual meal." She thought for a moment, counting on her fingers. 3 days, I think. Maybe 4. I found some bread behind the bakery on Tuesday, but it was getting moldy, and someone gave me half a sandwich yesterday." Robert stopped walking completely. Other people had to walk around them. 3 or 4 days? Sometimes it's longer than that. Food costs a lot of money, and I'm not very good at asking people for help. Most people just walk past me like I'm invisible. Some people get angry when I ask and tell me to get a job, but nobody wants to hire a 10-year-old kid. Noah took Kira's hand in his small one. "Well, we see you. You're not invisible to us, and you're going to have the best lunch ever. We're going to eat so much food." As they crossed the street toward the restaurant, Robert couldn't stop thinking about what had just happened. For the first time in 2 years, his son wasn't hiding his face in shame. Noah was walking with confidence, holding hands with a homeless girl who had shown him more genuine kindness than most adults had ever shown either of them. Robert Hayes was one of the richest men in the entire city. He owned 3 successful companies, had houses in 5 different states, and could buy almost anything he wanted. But in that moment, walking behind his son and a 10-year-old homeless girl, he realized he had never felt more empty and poor in his entire life. The question that kept running through his mind was simple but terrifying. What kind of man had he become that a homeless child was a better human being than he was? The restaurant was called Milano's, and it was the kind of place where Robert usually took important business clients. The tables had white cloth covers, and the waiters wore black uniforms with bow ties. Crystal glasses sparkled under soft lighting, and classical music played quietly in the background. Robert had eaten here hundreds of times, but today felt completely different. As soon as they walked through the glass doors, every conversation in the restaurant seemed to stop. The hostess, a young woman with perfectly styled blonde hair, looked at Kira with obvious shock and disgust. Her eyes traveled from Kira's dirty face down to her torn shoes, and her smile disappeared completely. "Good afternoon, Mr. Hayes," she said, forcing her smile back but keeping her eyes on Robert. "Your usual table?" "Yes, please. Table for 3, Robert replied, putting his hand gently on Kira's shoulder. He could feel her trembling slightly under his touch. The hostess looked confused. "3, sir? But I only see you and your son." "This is Kira. She'll be joining us for lunch today," Robert said firmly, his voice carrying a tone that meant he would not discuss it further. The woman's face went pale. "Sir, I'm not sure that's... we have a dress code here. Perhaps there's been some misunderstanding?" Robert felt his anger rising, but he kept his voice calm and steady. "There's no misunderstanding. We would like a table for 3, please." Noah looked up at the hostess with his innocent eyes. "Kira helped me when I was hurt. She's really nice, and she knows how to make pain go away. Can we sit by the window so she can see outside?" The hostess looked around nervously. Other customers were definitely staring now, some whispering behind their hand. A few people had their phones out, probably taking pictures. Robert recognized several faces from his business circles, people who would definitely spread word about what they saw today. "Right this way, please," the hostess finally said, leading them to a table in the back corner, as far from other customers as possible. As they walked through the restaurant, Kira kept her head down, clearly embarrassed by all the attention. Robert noticed how she tried to make herself as small as possible, like she wanted to disappear. It broke his heart to see a child feel so unwanted. "Is this okay?" the hostess asked, gesturing to a small table that was usually reserved for staff meals. "Actually, we'd prefer our usual table by the window," Robert said. "The one we always sit at." "But sir, that's right in the middle of the dining room. Are you sure that's appropriate?" Robert looked at her directly, his voice becoming colder. "Are you saying that my guest isn't good enough for the main dining room?" The hostess quickly shook her head. "No, of course not, Mr. Hayes. Right this way." They were seated at Robert's regular table, which had a beautiful view of the city park across the street. Kira stared out the window with wonder, like she had never seen the world from this perspective before. "This is so fancy," she whispered to Noah. "I've never been in a place like this." "It's just a restaurant," Noah said simply. "The food is good, but it's not that special. My daddy brings me here sometimes when he has to work and can't find a babysitter." A waiter approached their table with obvious reluctance. Robert knew him well. His name was James, and he had been working at Milano's for over 5 years. "Good afternoon, Mr. Hayes," James said, but his eyes kept darting to Kira with uncertainty. "Would you like to see the wine list today?" "Just water for everyone. And could you bring us some bread and butter while we look at the menu?" "Of course, sir." James hurried away, probably to discuss the situation with the manager. Kira was still staring around the restaurant in amazement. The tablecloth was softer than any blanket she had slept with in 2 years. The silverware was real silver, and it reflected the light from the chandelier above them. Everything was clean and beautiful and warm. "Kira, what kind of food do you like?" Robert asked, opening his menu. I don't really know," she admitted quietly. "I mostly eat whatever I can find. Bread, sometimes fruit if I can afford it. I had a hamburger once last month when someone gave me $5. Noah's eyes went wide. "You've only had one hamburger? That's so sad. Daddy, we eat hamburgers all the time." Robert felt that familiar punch in his stomach. This child was the same age as Noah, but she had lived a completely different life. While his son complained about having too many food choices, Kira was grateful for moldy bread. "Well, today you can have anything you want," Robert told her. "Anything at all." Kira looked at the menu, but Robert quickly realized she was having trouble reading it. The words were in fancy script, and some of the dishes had Italian names that even adults found confusing. "Would you like me to help you with the menu?" he offered gently. "I can read," Kira said defensively. Then her voice got smaller. Some of these words are really hard, and I don't know what most of these foods are." "That's okay," Noah said cheerfully. "I don't know what half this stuff is either. Daddy always orders for me anyway." James returned with a basket of warm bread and 3 glasses of ice water. Kira immediately grabbed a piece of bread and started eating it quickly, like someone might take it away from her. She had finished 2 pieces before Robert and Noah had even touched theirs. "Slow down," Robert said gently. "There's plenty of bread, and no one is going to take it from you." Kira stopped chewing and looked embarrassed. "Sorry, I guess I forgot my manners. Mama always told me to eat slowly and be polite." "You don't need to apologize. I just want to make sure you don't get sick from eating too fast." A few minutes later, the restaurant manager appeared at their table. His name was Mr. Patterson, and Robert had known him for years. He was usually friendly and professional, but today he looked very uncomfortable. "Mr. Hayes, good to see you again. I was wondering if I could speak with you privately for just a moment." "Whatever you need to say, you can say it here," Robert replied, not moving from his seat. "Mr." Patterson glanced around nervously. "Sir, we've had some complaints from other customers. They're concerned about hygiene and health codes. Perhaps we could arrange a private dining room?" Robert felt his anger building again, but he kept his voice level. "Are you asking us to move because of my guest? It's just that we have certain standards and this little girl doesn't meet your standards?" Kira looked like she wanted to crawl under the table. "Maybe I should go," she whispered. "I don't want to cause trouble." "You're not causing any trouble," Robert said firmly, looking directly at the manager. "You're my guest, and you have every right to be here." Noah suddenly stood up on his chair, making himself taller so everyone could see him. "This is Kira," he announced loudly. "She helped me when I was hurt, and she's the nicest person I ever met. If you don't like her, then you don't like me either." Several customers turned to look at them. Some seemed annoyed by the noise, but others looked curious, or even sympathetic. An elderly woman at a nearby table smiled and nodded approvingly. "Noah, sit down," Robert said, but he was proud of his son for standing up for Kira. Mr. Patterson realized he was fighting a losing battle. "Of course, Mr. Hayes. Please forgive the interruption. James will be right over to take your order." After he left, Kira looked at Noah with tears in her eyes. "No one has ever stood up for me like that before." "That's because people are stupid sometimes," Noah said matter-of-factly. "My daddy says that people judge other people without knowing them first. But I know you're good, because you helped me." When James returned to take their order, Robert ordered carefully. He chose foods that Kira would recognize and enjoy: chicken strips, French fries, and a chocolate milkshake. Noah ordered his usual pizza, and Robert got a simple salad. While they waited for their food, Kira told them more about her life. She explained how she had learned to avoid certain areas of the city where the police would arrest homeless people. She knew which restaurants threw away food that was still good, and which store owners would let her use their bathrooms. "Don't you get scared sleeping outside?" Noah asked. "Sometimes," Kira admitted, "especially when it's really dark or when there are loud noises. But I found some good hiding places where people can't see me." Robert was listening to every word, and each detail made him more amazed by this child's strength. She had survived 2 years on her own, taking care of herself in ways that most adults couldn't handle. When their food arrived, Kira stared at her plate like she couldn't believe it was real. The chicken strips were golden brown and still steaming. The French fries were crispy and hot. The chocolate milkshake was thick and topped with whipped cream. "This is really all for me?" she asked. "Every bit of it," Robert confirmed. She took her first bite of chicken and closed her eyes, making a small sound of pure happiness. "This is the best thing I've ever tasted in my whole life." As they ate, Robert found himself studying Kira's face. Underneath all the dirt and exhaustion, he could see that she was actually quite beautiful. She had bright, intelligent eyes and a smile that could light up the room. With proper care, good food, and clean clothes, she would be a stunning child. But more importantly, she had something that Robert had lost somewhere along the way: genuine kindness and the ability to see the good in people, even when the world had been cruel to her. By the time they finished eating, Robert had made a decision that would change all of their lives forever. He just wasn't sure how to tell them about it yet. After they finished eating, Robert suggested they take a walk in the park across the street. The afternoon sun was warm, and there were families everywhere enjoying the beautiful day. Children were playing on swings and slides while their parents watched from nearby benches. Kira walked between Robert and Noah, still looking amazed that she had just eaten a full meal in such a fancy restaurant. She kept touching her stomach like she couldn't believe it was actually full. "I feel so heavy," she said with a laugh. "I forgot what it feels like to not be hungry." They found an empty bench under a large oak tree. Noah immediately started playing with some leaves that had fallen on the ground, making little piles and then kicking them around. His energy seemed endless after the good meal. "Kira," Robert said carefully, "can you tell me more about what happened after your parents died? How did you end up living on the streets?" Kira's happy expression faded a little. "After Mama died at the hospital, some people from the government came to talk to me. They said I had to go live in a foster home because I was too young to take care of myself." "That sounds like it might have been a good thing," Robert said gently. "I thought so too at first. The social worker lady seemed nice, and she promised they would find me a family who would love me and take care of me." "What happened?" Kira picked at the hem of her dirty shirt. "The first family I went to live with had 4 other kids already. The parents were nice enough, I guess, but they were always busy and stressed about money. The other kids didn't like me very much because I was new and different." Noah stopped playing with the leaves and came to sit next to Kira on the bench. "That's mean. I would have liked you right away." "Thanks, Noah. But it gets worse." After 3 months, they said they couldn't afford to keep me anymore. So the social worker moved me to a different family. Robert felt his heart sinking. How many different families did you live with? 5 in total over about 6 months. Some were okay, but some were not good. The last family had a teenage son who was really mean to me. He would hit me when his parents weren't looking and take my food away during dinner. He told me I was worthless and that nobody would ever really want me. Did you tell the parents what he was doing? I tried, but they didn't believe me. They said their son would never do things like that, and that I was probably making up stories for attention. After a while, I stopped trying to tell them. Robert clenched his fists, feeling angry at people he had never met. How could adults be so blind to a child's suffering? So what did you do? One night, after the boy had been particularly mean, I decided I couldn't take it anymore. I packed the few things I had in a backpack and snuck out of the house while everyone was sleeping. I figured living on the streets had to be better than living with people who didn't want me and wouldn't protect me. How old were you when you ran away? 8. I've been on my own for 2 years now. Robert stared at her in disbelief. You've been surviving on the streets since you were 8 years old? It's not as bad as it sounds, Kira said quickly, like she was trying to make him feel better. I learned how to find safe places to sleep and how to get food without stealing. I made friends with some of the other homeless people, and they taught me how to stay out of trouble. But you're just a child, Robert said, his voice full of emotion. You should be in school, playing with friends, worrying about homework and cartoons, not figuring out where your next meal is coming from. I know I'm different from other kids, Kira said sadly. Sometimes I watch families in the park like this one, and I wonder what it would be like to have a mom and dad who actually wanted me around. But I learned not to think about it too much because it just makes me sad. Noah had been listening quietly, but now he spoke up. Daddy, why can't Kira live with us? We have lots of extra rooms, and Mrs. Henderson could cook for her, and she could play with me every day. Robert looked at his son, then at Kira. The idea had been growing in his mind ever since the restaurant, but hearing Noah say it out loud made it seem more real. Would you want to live with us? Robert asked Kira directly. Kira's eyes went wide with shock. You're serious? You would actually want me to live in your house? I'm completely serious. You've shown more kindness to my son in one afternoon than most people show in their entire lives. You made him feel better when I couldn't. You made him smile and laugh in a way I haven't seen in months. But I don't have any money to pay you back. And I don't have nice clothes or good manners. I probably don't even know how to live in a house anymore. You don't need to pay us anything. And clothes can be bought. Manners can be learned. But kindness like yours can't be taught. You either have it or you don't, and you clearly have it. Kira started crying, but they were happy tears. You really mean it? I could have my own room and eat meals every day and maybe even go back to school. All of that and more, Robert promised. But I need to be honest with you about something. This won't be easy. There will be paperwork and legal stuff to figure out. The government might try to put you back in the foster care system, and some people will judge our family for taking in a homeless child. I don't care about any of that, Kira said quickly. I'm used to people judging me, and I'm not afraid of paperwork if it means I get to stay with people who actually want me. Noah jumped up and down with excitement. This is the best day ever. Kira, you can sleep in the room next to mine, and we can play games every night before bed. Hold on, Robert said, laughing at his son's enthusiasm. First, we need to get Kira cleaned up and get her some new clothes. Then we need to call my lawyer and figure out the legal steps to make this official. What if the social workers say no? Kira asked, suddenly looking worried. Then we'll fight them, Robert said firmly. I have good lawyers and enough money to make sure you're safe. No one is going to take you away from us once you're part of our family. The word family hung in the air between them. Kira looked like she couldn't believe someone had just called her family. There's something else I need to tell you, Robert continued. My life hasn't been perfect either. I've made a lot of mistakes, especially with Noah. I've been so focused on work and making money that I forgot how to be a good father. But watching you with him today reminded me of what's really important. You're not a bad daddy, Noah said, climbing onto Robert's lap. You just work a lot, but now you'll have more time to play because Kira can help take care of me too. That's right, Robert said, hugging his son. We're going to be a real family, all 3 of us together. As they sat on the bench, watching other families enjoy the park, Robert realized that this was the first time in years that he felt truly happy. Not the temporary satisfaction that came from closing a business deal or making more money, but genuine, deep happiness. Can I ask you something? Kira said quietly. Anything. Why are you doing this for me? You don't even know me very well. Most people would just give me some money and walk away. Robert thought about the question carefully. Because you remind me of what it means to be human. You've been through terrible things, but you're still kind and gentle. You saw my son in pain and helped him without expecting anything in return. That's the kind of person I want in my life, and it's the kind of person I want Noah to learn from. And because we like you, Noah added simply. You're fun and nice and you smell like sunshine. Kira laughed through her tears. I smell like sunshine? Even though I haven't had a bath in days? You smell like happiness, Noah said seriously. That's the same thing as sunshine. As the sun began to set over the park, Robert made a silent promise to himself. He was going to do everything in his power to give this amazing child the life she deserved. And maybe, in the process, he would learn how to be the father that Noah deserved too. Are you ready to come home with us? Robert asked. Kira nodded, wiping away her tears. I'm ready. I've been ready for a long time. They stood up from the bench and started walking toward Robert's car. For the first time in 2 years, Kira wasn't walking alone. She was walking with her new family, toward a future that was brighter than anything she had ever dared to dream about. But as they reached the parking lot, Robert's phone started ringing. The caller ID showed his business partner's name, and suddenly he remembered all the responsibilities and complications that came with his wealth and status. The real world was about to collide with his new plans, and he wasn't sure if he was ready for the challenges that lay ahead. Robert looked at his phone screen and saw his business partner Marcus calling. He almost ignored it, but then remembered they had an important meeting scheduled for Monday morning with potential investors from Japan. I need to take this call, he told Kira and Noah. It'll just be a minute. Robert, where the hell have you been? Marcus's voice was loud and angry, even through the phone. I've been calling you for 2 hours. The Yamamoto group moved their meeting to tonight at 7. They're flying back to Tokyo first thing tomorrow morning. Robert checked his watch. It was already 5:30. Tonight? Why didn't anyone tell me earlier? I tried calling you 4 times. Your assistant said you went to the grocery store with your son and never came back. What's going on with you? Robert looked at Kira and Noah, who were waiting patiently by his car. Noah was showing Kira the different buttons and features, explaining everything with excitement. The sight made Robert smile despite the stress he was feeling. Something came up, Robert said. Something important. More important than a $50 million deal? Robert, this is the biggest contract we've ever been offered. You can't just disappear when we need you most. Can't you handle the meeting without me? There was silence on the other end of the phone. Marcus had been Robert's business partner for 8 years, and Robert had never missed an important meeting before. What's wrong with you? Marcus asked, his voice full of concern now instead of anger. Are you sick? Is Noah okay? Noah is fine. Better than fine, actually. But I can't come to the meeting tonight. Robert, I don't understand what's happening, but this could destroy our company. The Japanese don't give second chances. If you're not there tonight, they'll find someone else to work with. Robert felt the familiar weight of his business responsibilities pressing down on him. For years, his work had been the most important thing in his life. Making money, closing deals, building his empire. That's what defined him as a person. But looking at Kira, who was carefully touching the leather seats of his expensive car like she couldn't believe they were real, he realized that none of those things mattered as much as being there for the people who needed him. Marcus, I'll call you back in 10 minutes, Robert said, hanging up before his partner could argue. Is everything okay, Daddy? Noah asked, noticing the worried look on his father's face. It's just work stuff, Robert replied. But don't worry about it. Let's get in the car and go home. As they drove through the city toward Robert's house, Kira pressed her face against the window, staring at all the tall buildings and busy streets. She had lived in this city her whole life, but she had never seen it from inside a luxury car before. Where exactly do you live? She asked. In the hills on the north side of town, Robert answered. It's about 20 minutes from here. I've never been to that part of the city. The police don't like homeless people up there, so I always stayed downtown where there are more places to hide. As they drove higher into the hills, the houses got bigger and the yards got wider. Kira's eyes grew larger with each passing street. These weren't just houses. They were mansions with gates and long driveways and gardens that looked like parks. Holy cow, she whispered when Robert turned into his own driveway. You live here? This place is huge. Robert's house was a 2-story colonial with white columns and a circular driveway. The front yard was perfectly landscaped with flower beds and a fountain in the center. The house itself was probably bigger than some of the buildings where Kira had slept on the streets. It's too big, really, Robert said, feeling suddenly embarrassed by his wealth. I bought it when business was really good, but most of the rooms are empty. Noah and I only use a few rooms anyway. They parked in the garage, which was bigger than most apartments. Robert's collection of cars included a Ferrari, a Mercedes, and 2 BMWs. Kira stared at them in amazement. How many cars does one person need? She asked innocently. That's a very good question, Robert replied, realizing for the first time how ridiculous his car collection was. I guess I never really thought about it. They entered the house through the kitchen, which was enormous and filled with expensive appliances that Robert rarely used. Mrs. Henderson, the housekeeper, was just finishing cleaning the counters when they walked in. Mr. Hayes, You're home early, she said with surprise. Then she noticed Kira and stopped talking completely. Mrs. Henderson, this is Kira Washington. She's going to be staying with us from now on. The older woman looked confused and concerned. Staying with you, sir? For how long? Permanently, Robert said firmly. She's going to be part of our family. Mrs. Henderson had worked for Robert for 3 years, and she had never seen him act impulsively before. He was always careful and methodical about every decision, especially decisions involving Noah. Perhaps we should discuss this privately, she suggested quietly. There's nothing to discuss. Kira needs a home, and we have plenty of room. Please prepare the guest bedroom next to Noah's room for her. Of course, sir, Mrs. Henderson said, though she still looked worried. Should I also run a bath for the young lady? Robert looked at Kira, who was still dirty from living on the streets. That's a great idea. Kira, would you like to take a hot bath and get cleaned up? Kira's eyes filled with tears again. A real bath? With hot water and soap? As hot as you want it, with the best soap money can buy. While Mrs. Henderson helped Kira get settled upstairs, Robert's phone rang again. This time it was his lawyer, David Chen. Robert, I just got a very interesting call from Marcus. He said you've decided to adopt a homeless child? Please tell me he was joking. He wasn't joking. Her name is Kira, and she's 10 years old. I need you to start the paperwork immediately. Robert, you can't just decide to adopt a child on a whim. There are background checks, home studies, court hearings. The process takes months, sometimes years. Then we'll speed it up, whatever it costs. It's not about money. It's about the law. And if this child is already in the system, Child Protective Services will want to know why she's with you instead of with her assigned foster family. Robert sat down heavily in his living room chair. She ran away from foster care 2 years ago. She's been living on the street since she was 8 years old. There was a long pause. Robert, this is very complicated. If she's a runaway, the authorities are probably looking for her. By keeping her with you, you could be charged with kidnapping. That's ridiculous. I'm trying to help her. I know your intentions are good, but the law doesn't always care about intentions. You need to call Child Protective Services immediately and report that you found her. And then what? They'll just put her back in the same system that failed her before? Maybe, but at least you won't go to jail. Robert, I'm your lawyer and your friend. Trust me on this. You're playing with fire. After hanging up with David, Robert went upstairs to check on Kira. He could hear her laughing in the bathroom with Noah, who was apparently explaining how all the different bottles and soaps worked. Mrs. Henderson met him in the hallway. Sir, I've laid out some of your old clothes for her to wear temporarily. They'll be too big, but at least they're clean. Thank you. How's she doing? She's a sweet child, Mr. Hayes, but she's been through a lot. I can see it in her eyes. She keeps asking if she's really allowed to use all the hot water she wants. What do you think I should do, Mrs. Henderson? The older woman had raised 4 children of her own and had seen enough of the world to give good advice. I think you should follow your heart, sir. But I also think you should be prepared for a fight. The system doesn't like it when rich people try to skip the rules, even when they're trying to do good. That evening, while Kira and Noah played board games in the living room, Robert sat in his office staring at 2 phone numbers. One was for Child Protective Services, which his lawyer insisted he should call. The other was for Marcus, who was probably having a panic attack about the missed meeting with the Japanese investors. For the first time in his adult life, Robert Hayes didn't know what to do. Every decision he made would have serious consequences, and he couldn't see a clear path forward. All he knew for certain was that he wasn't going to let anyone take Kira away from them. Whatever the cost, whatever the legal battles, whatever the impact on his business, he was going to fight for this little girl who had already given his family more happiness in one day than they had felt in years. But as he sat there in his expensive office, surrounded by awards and photos from his successful business career, Robert realized that the biggest challenge wasn't going to be the lawyers or the social workers, or even the Japanese investors. The biggest challenge was going to be proving to himself and everyone else that he could actually be the father and protector that both Noah and Kira deserved. The phone rang again. This time, it was a number he didn't recognize. When he answered, a woman's voice spoke with official authority. Mr. Hayes, this is Sarah Martinez from Child Protective Services. We need to talk. Robert's hand tightened around the phone as he heard the social worker's voice. Ms. Martinez, how did you get my number? Mr. Hayes, we received reports that a missing child was seen with you today at Milano's restaurant. Several people recognized you and called our office. Kira Washington has been missing from the foster care system for 2 years. Robert closed his office door quietly, not wanting Kira to overhear the conversation. Through the window, he could see her and Noah building a fort out of couch cushions, both of them laughing and having the time of their lives. She's safe, Robert said firmly. That's all that matters right now. Mr. Hayes, I appreciate your concern, but Kira needs to be returned to our custody immediately. We have legal authority over her care. And how well did that work out the last time? She was so miserable in your system that she chose to live on the streets, rather than stay with the families you chose for her. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Mr. Hayes, I understand you mean well, but you don't have all the facts. Foster care isn't perfect, but it's better than living homeless on the streets. Is it? Because Kira tells me she was physically abused in her last placement, and when she reported it, no one believed her. Those are serious allegations. If you have proof of abuse, we can investigate. The proof is that an 8-year-old child preferred to risk her life on the streets rather than stay in your care. What more proof do you need? Robert could hear Ms. Martinez typing on her computer. Mr. Hayes, I see that you're a successful businessman with significant resources. If you're genuinely interested in helping Kira, there are proper channels for adoption. But right now, you're technically harboring a runaway minor. Then let's start the adoption process tonight. I'll hire the best lawyers money can buy. It doesn't work that way. There are background checks, home studies, parenting classes. The process takes at least 6 months, and there's no guarantee you'd be approved. Why wouldn't I be approved? I have a stable home, more than enough money to provide for her, and she's already bonded with my son. Because you have no experience with special needs children, Mr. Hayes. Kira has been through significant trauma. She needs specialized care and therapy, and frankly, most wealthy single fathers aren't equipped to handle those challenges. Robert felt anger rising in his chest. You're saying I'm not good enough to care for her? I'm saying that caring for a traumatized child requires more than money and good intentions. From downstairs, Robert heard Kira's laughter echo through the house. It was the sound of pure joy, something he hadn't heard from a child in his home for years. Ms. Martinez, can I ask you something? How many homes has Kira been placed in since her parents died? 5 different placements over 6 months before she ran away. And in those 5 homes, did any of those families make her laugh the way she's laughing right now? There was silence on the phone. Did any of them take the time to learn about her medical knowledge and appreciate her intelligence? Did any of them stand up for her when other people judged her? Because in one afternoon, my son has formed a stronger bond with Kira than she apparently had with any of those 5 families combined. She helped him in a way that I, with all my money and resources, couldn't help him. Maybe the question isn't whether I'm equipped to care for her. Maybe the question is whether your system is equipped to care for her. Ms. Martinez sighed heavily. Look, I can see that you care about this child, but I have a job to do, and the law is clear. Kira needs to be returned to state custody while we sort this out. When? I'm driving to your house right now. I should be there in about 15 minutes. Robert felt his world crashing down around him. Please, just give me 1 night. Let her sleep in a real bed for 1 night, and I promise I'll cooperate with whatever process you need. Mr. Hayes, I can't do that. I'm sorry. After she hung up, Robert sat in his office chair feeling defeated. He had built a business empire worth hundreds of millions of dollars, but he couldn't protect one 10-year-old girl from a broken system. He walked downstairs to the living room, where Kira and Noah had built an elaborate fort and were now inside it playing with flashlights. Hey guys, Robert said, trying to keep his voice normal. Can I talk to you for a minute? They crawled out of the fort, both smiling and covered in cushioned fabric. Daddy, this is the best fort ever, Noah announced. Kira knows how to make it really strong so it won't fall down. Robert knelt down so he was at their eye level. Kira, I need to tell you something, and it's going to be hard to hear. The smile faded from her face immediately. You changed your mind, didn't you? You don't want me to live here anymore. No, that's not it at all. I want you to live here more than anything. But there's a woman from Child Protective Services coming here tonight. She says you have to go back with her. Kira's face went completely white. You called them? You promised you wouldn't. I didn't call them. Someone from the restaurant must have recognized me and reported seeing you. Tears started streaming down Kira's face. Please don't let them take me back. I'll do anything you want. I'll clean the house and cook and take care of Noah. Just please don't make me go back to those people. Noah looked confused and scared. Why does Kira have to leave? We just became a family. Robert pulled both children into a hug, his own eyes filling with tears. I'm going to fight this. I promise. I'm going to hire the best lawyers and do whatever it takes to bring you home. But what if they put me with another mean family? What if I never see you and Noah again? That's not going to happen. I won't let it happen. Mrs. Henderson appeared in the doorway. Mr. Hayes, there's a woman at the front door who says she's from social services. Robert's heart sank. Tell her I'll be right there. He looked at Kira, whose small body was shaking with fear. Listen to me very carefully. This isn't goodbye, okay? This is just a temporary setback. I'm going to get you back, no matter what it takes. How do you know? Because you're family now, and families don't give up on each other. When Ms. Martinez entered the living room, she was a middle-aged Hispanic woman with kind eyes but a stern expression. She looked around at the obvious wealth of the house, then down at Kira, who was clinging to Noah's hand. Hello, Kira. My name is Sarah Martinez. I've been looking for you for a long time. I don't want to go with you, Kira said quietly. I know this is scary, but we need to follow the rules. Mr. Hayes doesn't have legal authority to keep you here. But he wants to adopt me. Why can't I just stay here while you do the paperwork? Ms. Martinez looked at Robert with sympathy. Because that's not how the system works, honey. Your system failed her once, Robert said, stepping forward. How do I know it won't fail her again? You don't, Ms. Martinez admitted. But we've learned from our mistakes. We have a new foster family lined up for Kira. People who specialize in caring for children who have been through trauma. Are they nice? Noah asked innocently. They're very nice, Ms. Martinez assured him. They have experience helping children who have been hurt, and they know how to be patient and understanding. Robert made a decision that surprised everyone, including himself. Ms. Martinez, what if I could prove that I'm capable of caring for Kira? What if I could show you that this is where she belongs? What do you mean? Give me 2 weeks. Let me start the adoption paperwork, hire child psychologists, take parenting classes, whatever you need me to do. But let Kira stay here while I prove that I can give her the life she deserves. Ms. Martinez shook her head. I can't authorize that. It's against protocol. Then change the protocol. You said yourself that your system made mistakes with Kira before. Don't make the same mistake again. The social worker looked at Kira, who was still crying silently, then at Noah, who looked like his heart was breaking. There is one possibility, she said slowly. If you could get emergency temporary custody through the courts, that would give you legal authority to keep her while the adoption process moves forward. How do I do that? You'd need to file a petition with family court first thing Monday morning. It would require character references, background checks, and a home study. And you'd need to prove that removing Kira from this environment would cause her significant emotional harm. Robert looked at his watch. It was Saturday night. Court wouldn't open until Monday morning. What happens to her between now and then? She would stay in temporary emergency housing. Which is what exactly? Ms. Martinez looked uncomfortable. A group home facility. It's institutional, but it's safe. Kira sobbed harder. Please don't make me go to one of those places. I've heard stories about them. They're like jail, but for kids. Robert felt something snap inside him. He had spent his entire adult life following rules and working within systems. But sometimes the systems were wrong. Ms. Martinez, I'm going to make you an offer. Take my business card and call my references. Call my lawyer, my accountant, my employees. Check my background 7 ways from Sunday. But let Kira spend one more night here while you do it. Mr. Hayes, if you find anything in my background that suggests I would hurt this child or that I'm not capable of caring for her, I'll personally drive her to wherever you want to take her. But if your investigation shows that I'm exactly who I appear to be, a father who wants to give a homeless child a real family, then you help me file that emergency custody petition first thing Monday morning. Ms. Martinez looked around the room again. She saw the fort that Kira and Noah had built together. She saw the genuine fear and sadness on both children's faces. She saw a man who was willing to risk everything for a child he had known for less than 24 hours. This is highly irregular, she said finally. Sometimes irregular is what it takes to do the right thing. After what felt like an eternity, Ms. Martinez nodded. One night, Mr. Hayes. I'll be back here at 8 o'clock Monday morning, and we'll all go to family court together. As she left, Robert, Kira, and Noah stood in the doorway watching her car disappear down the driveway. Do you really think she'll help us? Kira asked. I think she's a good person who wants to do the right thing, just like we do. And if the court says no? Robert knelt down and took both children's hands in his. Then we'll try again, and again, and again. Because that's what families do. They never give up on each other. 6 months later, Robert Hayes stood in a courtroom as a judge officially granted him full custody of Kira Washington. In the gallery behind him sat Marcus, who had forgiven him for missing the Japanese meeting and had helped him restructure his business to spend more time with his family. Mrs. Henderson was there too, crying happy tears as she watched the family she had come to love become official. But the best part was watching Kira and Noah in the front row, holding hands and grinning from ear to ear. Kira was wearing a new dress that Mrs. Henderson had helped her pick out, and her hair was styled with a ribbon that matched Noah's tie. After the ceremony, as they walked out of the courthouse into the bright sunshine, Noah looked up at Robert with serious eyes. Daddy, are we really a family now? Like, forever and ever? Forever and ever, Robert confirmed. Good, Noah said with satisfaction. Because Kira is the best sister ever, and I was worried someone might try to take her away again. Kira squeezed both of their hands. Nobody's taking me anywhere. This is my family, and I'm never leaving. As they drove home together, Robert realized that the best decision he had ever made wasn't buying his first company or closing his biggest deal. It was choosing to see the humanity in a homeless child and giving her the love she deserved. Sometimes the most important things in life come disguised as interruptions to our plans, And sometimes, if we're very lucky, those interruptions turn out to be exactly what we needed all along.